the levels mightn't be the best, and the gaps between the items, well, they don't really stand to reason unless you knew just what difficulties I had to make this particular recording. However, I do hope you like it.
Why you driving me crazy? We going the same way, you know we're playing the same game. We're chasing the same dream, you know that we love the same kids. Wondering lately. Oh, I know the show began some time ago, you know. Wondering lately. And with many trying times between the ebb and flow. Up each other's walls. Wondering lately.
Hello and good afternoon, good evening and good morning, depending on where in the world, I'm so sorry, where in the world you are. We welcome all to this little 3D Shenanigans experiment of mine. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, Christina. Hello, DreamLab Studio, aka Mr. Batsu. And also hello, Eric. I believe you wanted to join us. If you're watching from Canada, then, welcome. We've just had a little conversation on email. Eric was looking for something that let him wander around his scene with the keyboard shortcuts, and it's such an easy thing to just forget where that button is, or why does it even exist? Why isn't it on all the time? It's one of those things. I'm gonna build a little coffee shop scene today. And I haven't really rehearsed much of this, so I'm hoping this is all going to work out. You never know if it does or not, so things are prone to go wrong. Bear with me here. Julia is with me. She's watching the stream next to me. Say hello to Julia, please. And there's about a 12-second delay between what I'm doing and how it comes out at your end. Marcus was asking this the other day in a comment. It's a phenomenon called latency, and that's just a fancy word of describing anything happening here gets kind of processed on the way, and then it comes out at your end with that sort of delay. And latency is an important factor when it comes to live interactions. So it's slightly bizarre that different services use different types of latency. So I've done a lot of testing with YouTube, and YouTube is kind of the most complex platform to stream on, I think. Twitch is very easy. And then there's another service called Microsoft Mixer, which is also fairly easy. They don't really give you options. You just type in a key, press a button, and boom, you're live. That's how it works. And on YouTube, you have so many options. It is kind of mind-boggling. So they give you 3 options: regular latency, low latency, which is what we're using, and ultra low latency. And the difference between these types of things is that there is more data that's being held in a kind of buffer. And that means you have a better playback experience. So if something goes wrong at my end between me and the YouTube server, and there's more data, then the service has a bit of time to kind of wait and empty the buffer. And then when the buffer, when things are working, pushing through better again, then the buffer fills up again. And so that's how, that's the difference. So that's why a longer delay means a better buffering, which means a better user experience, but it also means there's this ugly delay between I'm saying something, you getting it, and then typing a message and me then reacting to it. So it's kind of, back and forth. That's the issues of latency. So from what I understand, Twitch and YouTube have a similar latency, but Mixer by Microsoft, that has less than 1 second. I have no idea how they do it. I've tested that out yesterday. That's very interesting. I just find that fascinating how these things work. And, I'm a techie at heart, so that's why I find that just interesting, really. And I believe the big difference is that some services like YouTube, they take my data, then they go and process it into different types of resolutions, and then they pass it on to the viewers. Whereas other services, I believe Twitch is one of them, I'm not entirely sure how they do it, but Mixer certainly, they basically take my data and just duplicate it and pass it on. And the issue there is that if I'm sending something at, say 12 megabytes a second, then that is the speed at which you receive it, and there's nothing else you can do about it. If your connection is slower, then you just won't get it, and you have stuttering and you just have congestion there. But YouTube is different in that it takes my data and processes it into several streams, including lower bandwidth streams. So that means if you have a lower connection than I have, then you can get a lower quality stream, whereas when you have a higher one, you can basically select in the bottom right corner, you can select that resolution there. That's just came to my head, all these things, and this is what I'm dealing with for the last, since the beginning of the year, really. And yes, so I've been looking into it. Yes, let's not jinx anything. I'm still a little bit ill. Yes, I've got that cold is still with me. It's kind of not really, it doesn't really want to go. Julia has it, I have it. It's kind of lingering there. That's one of those things. Let's have a look at what we're doing today. So let me show you the product that I'm going to be using here. So this is the Ironman 13 coffee shop environment with poses. I bought that the other day and I haven't really used it much. I always had my eye on it because I always wanted to make a coffee shop scene there with people in there. And there are several coffee shop sets on DAZ 3D, and this one is the one that I wanted to use. So very nice with pastries, and there's a lot to explore here. Cash register. So I'm imagining my characters to sit at one of these tables here, one on the left and one on the right. And I'm not going to bother with background action, so you can do a lot with this. All I want to focus on is maybe a wide shot of these guys sitting at a table, and then having one close-up camera on one person and having another close-up camera on the other. And if it's a comic book environment that these people having a dialogue with, then you don't want each picture to look the same. You may want the framing to stay the same, but you maybe want the expressions and the motion of the characters to be different. And it's very complex to dial in a new pose for all these things. So I'm going to use this tool called Puppeteer. Have you worked with Puppeteer? Let me know if you know about it already. It's a plugin for DAZ Studio it's free. It's being shipped with DAZ Studio, and it's very exciting to move between one pose and another. It's kind of a non-linear animation, so that's what we're going to be using there. On two different layers, that's the plan. One is for the motion of the characters, and the other one is for the expressions of the characters. So I'll show you how that works. In regards to characters, I'm going to use this character here, Tamara. That was a bundle from 3D Universe here, and she comes with hair and clothing, so I'm going to use all of that. And I really like 3D Universe's style there. Steve is doing an absolutely marvelous job, and so we're going to use her. I'll see if I find the jewelry. I don't know. I had to do a fresh install on my whole system. So I don't know if and where I find these things. Christina, how's your reinstall going there? Did that go well? Has it been time yet, or are you going to do that over the weekend? I forgot. So I hope it's all going to go well. This is the male character that we're going to use. This is Matt, also from 3D Universe. He came in a bundle with Megan. I don't really like Megan much, so I'm just going to use him here, Matt. And he also comes with kind of surfer clothes, and maybe they're having a relationship discussion or what they're going to do with their lives. So we're not going to use her, we're just going to use him here. I'll post links to these products in the description when I find a bit of time to get a decent thumbnail for the stream out, so I'll do that. Sure, yeah, I hope it can be helpful. It's a very complex thing, this Puppeteer, but as soon as you get the hang of it, I'll let you know the pitfalls, and it's just about playing around with it. I'm going to use two expression products here from Capsces. I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not quite sure. And they're really made for the girl 7 and for the guy 7. And I've chosen them because they are very extreme expressions. So sometimes subtle expressions in 3D and in comic books, they don't really work that well. You really have to overemphasize things like in this, like these expressions. I really like them. Expressions are difficult to make. You've got these little sliders that you can adjust the eyes and the mouth and those things with, but really good expressions, they're usually crafted in a tool like ZBrush and then applied like a completely different morph. So they're morph targets, really. That's how creators do it. So there's a lot that we can use, and with Puppeteer we'll be able to seamlessly transition from one to the other and pick something in between. So that's what Puppeteer is really good at. So we've got one for the girl 7 and one for the guy 7, both very exciting. And on real life humans, they don't really work that well because they're just a bit too extreme. But if you use them on cartoony type characters, it's going to work really well. Oh, there's an April update with Windows. I haven't actually... I'm on this newsletter called the Insider. I think you can get like new versions of Windows. I've just never had the guts to try it. Hey Biscuits, how's it going? Goedemiddag, goedenavond nach Holland. Very nice to see you. How have you been? I've seen your plant pots there on Patreon. Very cool. Biscuits has just released two products to her Patreon supporters. One was a plant and one was a little plant pot. I'm dying to try them out. So thank you so much for that. Looking forward to that. Let's have a look at DAZ Studio. That's what we're going to be dealing with. I've been setting the scene up a little bit, but I'm going to do this step by step. I'm going to create this from the very top. Let's start with a brand new scene and then let's get going here. So in my brand new half cleared out system here, I'm going to head over to my Smart Content tab, and the first thing I'm going to do is load that coffee shop scene, and I believe that's under environment. Yes, there we go, coffee shop with environment. This is the one? Yeah. Oh, look at that. You pop it open and then there's a big picture coming up. That's very exciting. So great, let's load that in. And it comes with several options here. You've got the full preload, you've got the light preload, and then you also have the full scene as light and as full. As far as I understand it, this is to do with the little knickknacks in the background. You can just about see there's a lot of other pictures on the walls, and there's less here, and there's kind of more tables in the full preload than there are on the light preload. So I'm going to use the light preload, and I'm going to have the light ready scene as well, so that that's makes our life maybe a little bit easier for streaming and all that. 20 to 30 minute time limit, hey? Interesting. Maybe that's a feature in Windows. Don't use Windows longer than 30 minutes or it'll go away. Very interesting. So that's our coffee shop scene. It comes with something called the coffee shop viewer. That's kind of akin to the perspective view, I guess. We can use either one. Maybe I'll move in between the two of them. I'll move around just to answer Eric's question here. If you wanted to move around in DAZ Studio, that's this little button here. That's the keyboard navigation, also with Shift K. So if you switch that on, like I have it switched on, there's a kind of companion tool, so to say, to that. Let me see if you can see that here. This is the one next to it, which is the Scene Navigator tool. And in my case, that's now toggled on. Can you see that here? Maybe. If that is toggled on, then that is what you can use to move around the scene with the mouse. So this is for looking and this is for navigating. So if both of these are active, then you can use the W, A, S, and D keys to move around like so. And while you do that and strafe left and right, depending on how much is in your scene, you can amend that speed, and you can then left click and drag with the mouse and kind of just look around while you walk around. And that's the idea behind it. So mine's a little bit slow, probably because it's still got the defaults in here, and that's not it's just not something I want to do. I can turn this over in the draw settings, the Scene Navigator. I can add the move controls. I can make that a bit faster. Perhaps I'm going to make that, turn that into 40, and maybe it'll turn that into 20, and then we'll see if that is works a little bit faster. I think movement is then also a little bit faster. There we go. Cool. That's maybe a little too zoomed in. So if I right click and drag on my zoom mouse in my little zoom tool here, then I get a much wider field of view. It is now maybe a little bit too wide. It looks kind of eerie and creepy. So maybe I'll make that less wide. Oof. There we go. Something like that. And that allows me to pick a nice spot here. There's something that I've learned from Steve from Australia, Backdoor 3D. Don't know, Steve's probably still in bed. He's not joining us today. So I'm thinking I switched this stream to the late afternoon / evening in Europe because that means he can join as well. But I guess he's still in bed, which is, I understand that. He told me this amazing trick. Press Control L and that'll switch the scene lights on and off. So if you load a scene and it looks like this and you can't really see what's happening, press Control L and then that switches the preview lights on. It's very good to get some bearings in your scene there. So whichever way you decide to move around, I'm going to go and pick one of these tables, perhaps this one here. That's table number 2. There's also sometimes I want to look at my scene from the top, so if I just quickly do that, then I'll see that there's not much going on here. That's because the scene is a completely enclosed 360-degree scene, so that is the roof that I'm seeing here, but I'd like to look through the roof. So with that with that, in the scene tab open up, the coffee shop open up, you can click that little eye icon here, and then that'll take the roof away. I can also do more or less the same thing with some of the other things, to just take the walls away, and then I can just see right through the scene. That'll come in handy when we position our characters. So there we go. There's one other thing I want to do. I'm going to make the whole coffee shop unselectable, and that's that little arrow icon here. If I click that, then these things all get little X's, and that means if I accidentally click on the counter or anything else, this won't be selected in the scene, because that's one of those things that I find extremely annoying in DAZ Studio, or in basically every 3D application. If you do that and you select something that you didn't want to select, you just wanted to select the person's arm or whatever, and then you've grabbed the table and you move it around, it's just, time consuming to do that. So if you click that little arrow icon, then anything in that group will be unselected, and that's the spirit. I'm going to do the same with the lights. I probably won't select the lights either. Great. So oh yeah, perspective view versus coffee shop viewer. I think they're both kind of, it doesn't really matter which one I use. Maybe I'll stick to the perspective view here, so that I can it's just a consistent positioning experience. So this is the table in question, this one here, and I'm imagining one character to sit here and the other character to sit here. Okay, that's our basic kind of setup here. That's the scene. Now let's have a look if we can sit a character down, load a character, sit him down. Let's start with a man. I'm going to go into my Smart Content tab again and head over to Figures. And under Figures, I have quite a bit of choice here. See if we can find Matt. Look at that. All my content, or most of my content, seems to have come back after I've done something earlier, which was in my Smart Content tab. So basically, the full story is, for those of you who don't know, I had to reset Windows because I had some driver issues and things were going a bit mental there. So I refreshed Windows, and that of course got rid of most of my settings. So my content, my DAZ Studio content, was still there on the hard drive. But when I reinstalled DAZ Studio, it said, the database said, well, hey, sorry, there's just nothing in here anymore and you don't have any content. So when Install Manager somehow knew stuff was still installed, but DAZ Studio had forgotten about it. So one way around it was to uninstall that content and reinstall it. Another way, and I thought that's why I'm showing you this, is on this little context menu in the Smart Content tab. There's Content DB Maintenance. And if you click that, there are several options here, and most of them are kind of scary. Well, I didn't really know what they meant, but the most important one is this one here, Re-import Metadata. And if you tick that and hit Accept, then DAZ Studio or the PostgreSQL service will go to work and look at what the DAZ Install Manager knows and kind of tells DAZ Studio about it. I think that's how it works somehow. There's other things like process metadata queue, condensed database, and there's also reset database. I don't really know what any of these things exactly do, but re-import metadata has kind of fixed things that I didn't know were fixable. So now I see all this content is in my library again, because about 2 hours ago it was completely empty. So, interesting. I thought I'd let you know that. I'm going to go and find Matt. So here's stylized Matt figure and hair. Let's double click on that and load Matt in. Matt appears somewhere here, and I'm going to leave him here for the moment before I move him over to my table. And that has to do with the way that when poses are applied, it's kind of difficult to get the position of these figures exactly right, because one relies on the other. I'm going to leave him here for now, then I'll apply poses, and then I'm going to put him into the position of the chair. Christina, zooming in with OBS works with by setting up different scenes. So one scene is something like the full scene, and then another one would be something like this, for example. That'll be zoomed in to one corner, and then you can switch between these scenes. And I've bought this little gadget called the Stream Deck recently. It's very exciting. I'm going to make a video about it, how it works. So when this is it. It looks very exciting, and it hooks into OBS, and the scenes I've set up, they're all on this little keypad here, and you can switch between them. So if I switch to this one here, then I'm switching a scene in OBS, and that's how that works. There we go. But I'm going to make a full video about this because it's a very handy tool. You can use it for productivity. Biscuits was interested in that as well. And it's one of those things that you can set up shortcuts on this thing, and it's kind of a handy second little keyboard to have. So very, very cool to have. So with Matt selected here, he's called Genesis 3 Male. So I guess I'm going to go and rename him. I'm just going to call him Matt. There we go. Then I know who that is. Matt is now standing here. He's selected. Let's apply a couple of poses on him. And oh yeah, to have a look at Matt in a closer, without the kind of the counter behind him, let me just quickly hide the coffee shop so that we just see Matt here. There we go. Poses are supplied with the coffee shop set. So I can just, with Matt selected, I can just go and double click that coffee shop thing again. Under poses here, I can also whittle this down by function and by region. So I want to have a look at sitting positions. Ironman did a good job there. We have the pink poses, those are for the women, and we have the blue poses, which are for the men, so for the Genesis 3 men. Each pose is there 3 times, and that is because one is in the current position of Matt, either on the left hand side of the table or on the right hand side of the table, and one moves him to the table. Those are basically the same pose. So one is mirrored, and the other one also includes translation data, and that can get a little bit messy sometimes. So I'm imagining my Matt here sitting on the right hand side and my Tamara sitting on the left hand side. So let's see how we can make that happen. I'm going to dial in number 1. This is just one pose, and it's not quite in position, so we're going to have to tweak that in a moment. But to make that to lock that in, I've got my Puppeteer panel open here. I'm in edit mode, and all I need to do is select any point on this whole thing and just click it. So I'm going to go put my point here. Puppeteer, by the way, I'm still getting these cough episodes every once in a while. I do apologize about that. Puppeteer is a panel you open at under Windows, or under Window, Panes, and then there's Puppeteer down here. And once that's open, just dock it. And that's what I've done here on the right hand side. Whoops. Let's keep that open, shall we? So with this dot here, I can now go ahead and select another pose in the same position on the right hand side. Perhaps I'm going to use this one here, where he's sitting a little bit differently, looking over to the barista, checking her out. And all I need to do is now with this pose, put another dot in on a different part under edit mode here. It doesn't exactly matter where, but here and there is, that's the plan. And I'll put a third pose in here looking at the same size, and maybe like this. This is kind of a nice gesture here, so I'm going to dial that in. And he's telling her, look, we need to talk about this. So once again with edit, just select that here to put a point in, and now we have these 3 points here. Let me get out of the way. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. These 3 points. So now, if I head to the preview mode of Puppeteer, that's kind of a different mode. I can now go and switch between these 3 points just simply by dragging my mouse. So I can either click any of these points, and that'll go more or less to the pose that we've just come up with there, or I can select anything in between or even outside these dots, which is very interesting. Let me know if my webcam is in the way there. It's not the ideal position there, I guess, but I can get rid of that if you want me to, just for demonstration purposes. So now if I go and drag from this pose to that pose, I can see that my mat is changing positions, but it's doing so seamlessly. I can even go outside, and some poses won't work, especially if you go outside. That just looks like contortionist, looks like terrible, doesn't it? But if you stay inside from one pose to another, you have a variety of poses, and you can add as many as you like, and you can see what works. So these are not perfect, these are not in position right now, but we're going to go ahead and update that in a moment. And so that's the basics of Puppeteer. And the cool thing is right now we've got layer 1 active. We can do that for both figures, and we can do this separate for expressions and for poses. So that's another important thing to remember. This is kind of the basic idea behind it. And you can create another layer. We're going to do that in a moment. First of all, perhaps we're going to start by renaming that layer, and that's on this little context menu here. If you click that, then you have the add layer, delete layer, rename layer, and clear layer. So clear is get rid of all the points that you've set. You can do that individually as well with a right click on these points. But if you head over to rename layer, then you can now rename this from layer 1 into mat pose, perhaps. Let's do that. And now I've got the mat pose layer. On the top here, by the way, you've got you have a massive drop-down menu with which you can select what you're controlling on this layer. So you can literally control everything. So I'm just going to set that back to mat because that was a bit scary to have a list that long come up. But hey, them's the rules, I guess. So there we go. I think it will. Dreamlab. When I looked at this for the first time, it was absolutely mind-blowing. It's kind of non-linear animation. It's really cool. Yes, when you save the whole thing as a scene, so under File, Save As Scene, then all the Puppeteer thing will be saved with that scene. I believe you can even save this separately. Yes, I think you must be with the Puppeteer preset. You can save that separately, but if you save it as a complete scene, then that's just going to save the whole scene along with the characters and the expressions and any morphs and any positional data you've made there. So let's move Matt into position before we move over to moving Tamara into position there. So one thing that is slightly annoying is if I go into the preview and just select this first pose now, if I imagine Matt is sitting at this table here. Let's move that into view. I'll show you one of the slightly annoying effects that you just kind of have to work around, and it is what it is, as the expression goes, isn't it? It is what it is. So with Matt selected, perhaps it's easiest to show this from the top, to move him into the position from the top. There we go. Oh, the coffee shop's now. Something isn't quite right here in my counters. Is it the roof is back, stocked shelf is back, the sink is back, counters. Oh, there we go. Cool. Now that's Matt. With Matt selected, with my 3D manipulator tool in place, let me go and move him over to somewhere on this chair. So this is just about where he's sitting, just roughly. In the perspective view, let me have a look if he's we haven't given him clothes yet either, so I'll have to do that in a minute. He's kind of sitting okay. We're not going to see his feet, so I'm not worried about this intersection here too much, but him sitting at the table is kind of more or less what I want. I'm just going to lift up his arm a little bit so that his arm doesn't intersect with the table. So maybe he's just a little bit bored, and maybe he's kind of half turning around as well. So let's go and turn him towards his partner, and maybe he's depressed and he's thinking, oh, should I leave my job or whatnot? I'm not entirely sure yet. While we're here, we might as well frame him up with the camera, something along the lines of this, with the coffee sign in the background there. I might as well make this into a camera while I'm here. So under create new camera, I'm going to go and call that Matt close, and I'm going to say copy active view. There we go, that's my camera. me make that unselectable right now, because this is just, this is now just selectable under here, Matt close, and then I have a white shot and I have Tamara close, and then those are the three points of view I'd like to set up. So if I select Matt again, then my 3 dots are coming back, which is good. That's kind of what I want. I think maybe I'm in the way here, aren't I? So I'm going to move that up a little bit so that you can see the 3 dots a little bit better here. There we go. So if I were to go into the preview mode now and select any of the other poses, Matt will magically move back to the old position, and that's not good. So now that I've kind of updated this position, I want to make sure he stays there with the arm slightly elevated, with him slightly turned. So what I need to do is I'm going to have to go back to the edit mode, and it was this pose here I seem to remember. Or was it this pose? No, it's this pose actually, with the one that's kind of that's yellow or golden here. And with that I can go ahead and right click, and I can either delete it or I can update the selected pose, and that's really what I want to do. I want to update this pose. And now this means that if I'm going back to the preview mode and I'm going back to around this pose, then my mat will exactly spring into this position. That's exactly what I want. But of course, the downside to that is that if I go to the preview mode and I'm going to go and move things around, you can see that now Matt is moving back into the position that he's just been in. So that's a bit of a shame. So we need to go ahead and select this, so just single click on that, go back to the top view and move Matt once again into the position that we want him to be in. So there we go. I can probably do that in edit mode. Go select that pose and move him over here. Actually, is that the pose that we've just been dealing with? Am I getting confused? Yeah, that's the pose that we've just been dealing with, wasn't it? So this is that pose. There, so this pose, right, that's what I want to do. Let's change that again. This is that pose. It looks so similar to the one that we've just done. What's going on? Maybe I've just got erased a pose that I wasn't supposed to do. That could be an idea. Biscuits, yes, save it in between poses separately. I mean, it is usually enough to just lock them in with Puppeteer. That's kind of a saving, kind of a temporary saving, and it will bring them back. I think I've just accidentally overwritten this pose instead of that pose. I think this is the pose that I wanted to actually deal with. Maybe I'll just go ahead and look at this pose. Yeah, look, that's a different pose, isn't it? So that's the pose I really want to amend. So I'm going to go and it's the top right pose I really need to amend. There we go, that's cool. He's checking out the barista woman. No, select Matt, there we go. And his hands under the table, that's kind of working. I'm just going to go and move them down a little bit. Oh, wait, no, not that. Yes, like that. That's okay, and that hand can kind of stay there. We're okay with that. He's not intersecting with the chair, so I think maybe I'm happy with the position here. There, let's do that. And once again, to update that pose, I can just go into edit mode and making sure this is actually this pose this time. I'm going to go and right click on it and say update selected pose. So now in theory we should have 2 usable poses in this position, which is this and that. That's kind of what we want, isn't it? That versus that. So now we need to just recreate our third pose because I kind of messed it up over there, which is this pose. Let's just see what that other pose was that I was interested in. Was this one here probably? Was it this one? No, it was this one here. It was this this gesture type thing, wasn't it? Yeah, that was it. Yeah, there we go. Great. So we've got this is the one that we need to replace. So let's go and do that at the top again with the top view with Matt selected. Let's move him over here. it is a little bit fiddly to set this up, but once you have, then you can literally leave it in one place. And that's kind of how animators work. They do all this setup work beforehand, and then they can literally just animate the mouth of their characters very easily, very quickly. Move that arm up just a bit here. And just so that this doesn't intersect with the chair so much, I'm going to move Matt a little bit, or just turn him around, probably like so. Yeah, that's kind of enough. Great. And now, just making sure I'm updating the correct pose here. I think this is it. Is that it? Let's try, shall we? Update selected pose. And then with preview, I should be able to see this, this, and that. Yeah, 3 different poses. That's exactly what I want. And anything and everything in between. So now you can add as many poses as you like. Sometimes I like to have something like a 0 pose in the middle, and then create a circle with several poses on the outside of that. So that'll make creating just various types of movement for each picture. That's very easy then. So there we go. That is Matt set up. Let's have a look at his expression here, because that's the thing that we're going to do next on a separate layer. There. So Matt in close up here, and we're going to focus on Matt's head. So let's select his head first, because that's where the expressions live. And with the head selected, we're going to go over and create a new layer for Matt. So now that we have Matt pose, we're going to have Matt expression. And with that, I can now switch between Matt pose and Matt expression. Matt expression is currently empty. That's exactly what we want. So I can then change his pose independently from the expressions. That's going to be really cool. And for the expressions, I'm just going to do kind of what I suggested there. In edit mode, I'm going to put a dot here, and I'm going to maybe put 4 expressions around it. So I have a 0 expression that I can go out into any direction from there. It's a bit of, trial and error. Experiment with it and see what you come up with. So with Matt's head selected under the parameters tab, I've got these expressions installed here, there under the pose controls, under the head. In head, we have expressions, and there's the regular Genesis expressions, but there's also the Guy 7 tuned expressions here. And these are the ones that I want to focus on. And I'll just have a few, perhaps, let's see what cry is like. Oh my God, that's terrible. So that's great. Let's do that. You don't have to crank them up to 100%. It's, it depends kind of what you want. I think on this character, that looks just a little bit extreme. So I think I'm going to use something like that. It's still overemphasized, but it'll bring the point across in a comic book. So just by clicking another button here, or clicking another expression here, that's the crying expression. I'm going to set that back to 0 and find another one here. Fright a scream. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good expression. Oh my God, what are you saying? So that's perfect. That's another one here. And then maybe there's another one in which he is a bit grumpy. I don't like this at all. So that's cool. That could be here. And then another expression can be something, him being happy, kind of joy. Yay! I'd love to do that. Yeah, maybe joy A. I like joy A. Of course, there's so many expressions. It really depends on your scene. But I think for the purpose of this demonstration, something along the lines of these will probably be sufficient. Actually, let me just delete that. That'll get rid of this, and just put that out here again, something like that. So once again, if I'm on the expression layer with preview, I can now go ahead and go back to 0, and I can go and give him any expression that I like. And I can even go outside it and see what that looks like. So sometimes that's, it gives extreme effects. So very cool. This is actually working better than the actual expression dialed up to 100%. And you can have anything in between. So if you're looking for a combination of 2 expressions, just set the same expression behind one of the other expressions, and then that'll add up together as well. So that's also something you can do. There. That's nice, that's matte setup. And now we'd have to go through the whole rigmarole again for a female character, of course. But yeah, that's in essence how you do that. And then you can go ahead and mix and match. You can have, once you've got the close, you can go ahead and dial him up as a close, as a close-up. Perhaps we're going to go and first of all switch on my aspect ratio tool, frame him up properly. Also, if you are creating a coffee shop, then make sure you're leaving enough room for the speech bubble, of course, very important. Yes, it's going to come so in handy also for promo shots, Biscuits. It's going to be great to have a few of these poses just set up. I've never experimented yet with just saving this as a separate Puppeteer preset, like what I've shown before under File, Save As, and then just use the Puppeteer preset here. I can imagine that once you've set this up, then you can reuse this setup for other figures. So even if you have a different type of figure morph, you can still use the same pose and expression morph. So especially with standing poses on a promo shot, I think this is going to come in handy. Be great to see that featured a bit more. So there we go. This could be room for the speech bubble here, something like that. And then of course you could have another layer that just deals with the eyes, for example. You know, you can then have one that just deals with left, right, up, down type eyes. So once again, you have a dot in the middle, and then you can basically set the eyes left and right of that, and then you can have up and down. So rather than having to go into the eye expression here, you can just go and set that up as a Puppeteer preset. It's going to come in handy. And I believe that's what big animation studios do. And they go one step further. I believe they have kind of a special controller. So there's not just mice and keyboards. You get special controllers with tactic controls, a bit like what you have on the VR input controls. And that lets people control mouths and vissoments and facial expressions just by moving their fingers. So I've seen animators do that, and it's a great concept. It's a very, very cool concept. So there we go. That's really the main bulk of what I wanted to show you. Maybe I can go and repeat all that for the female character. Would be interesting to see if that's going to work well. So we're going to go and load our female character in, and then basically go through the whole thing again. Let's try it out. So back on the Smart Content tab. Let's see if we have... Do we have Tamara anywhere? Oh, that's poses. And that is still matte selected here. Victoria. Tamara, there we go. Perfect. Tamara figure. There she is. And once again, we're going to go and do the same thing as before. We're going to give her, we're going to not worry about the clothing or anything. We're just going to worry about the poses. So that's, once again, that's under the environment somewhere. Oh no, it's under poses, isn't it? Poses, there we go. And that is under the coffee shop. And once again, we're going to go and see if we find by function sitting. And now we're going to focus on the pink figures here, sitting on a chair, maybe here. So that's her sitting in this chair. I'm going to make that on the Puppeteer in edit mode. I'm going to make that this dot. So also while we're here on the Puppeteer preset, instead of layer 1, I'm going to go and rename that into Tamara pose so that we know what that is. Let's create another pose in which she's sitting at the other side of the table, if we find one. Oh, that's the tall table. Oh, do we not have more girl poses at the other end of the table? No, I guess we don't. Oh. Well, we'll just use this one here, and then we're just going to go put her into position in a moment. That's pose number 2, and then this is going to be pose number 3. There. Okay, so with pose number 1 selected, let's have a look at the top once again and move her onto this chair. That's where we'd like her to sit. Yeah, and that's probably a little bit too low, so we're going to lift her up a little bit. Oops, chair's in the way, and that's almost there, so that just needs a bit of posing. Is always fiddly, so I'm going to do another video probably about posing at one point, because there's so many funky little tools that you can use. So there we go. That's more or less there, isn't it? That's one pose that we can use. Her checking out the barista. Perhaps they're both talking about her. She's wearing a funny t-shirt or whatever. I'm going to move her slightly further back in the chair. There, and with edit mode selected, I'm going to go and update this pose here now. Update selected pose. Boom. Move on to the next pose, which is this one, and that also needs a bit of adjustment, of course. First of all, from the top. Let's move her over here, and then of course, most importantly, let's move her facing Matt, because how else are you going to have a conversation? It's a very similar pose, but you get the idea. Sometimes it's more about the in-betweens, and I believe that's how pose creators actually work. They create a few basic poses, and then they create lots of variations with other poses. Well, this is probably meant to be literally elbows on the table. Perhaps the hand out of your face. That's a little bit defensive there, isn't it? But hey, you get the idea. Perhaps I'm going to move it over. Come on. Oh no, don't do that. Oh no, don't do that. That's terrible. Something like that. And then perhaps this can also just move out of the way a little bit, like so. Okay, under edit mode, once again, we're going to update this pose. And now under preview, we should be able to move between this and that. So that's 2 poses here, very nice. And this one, it's not quite working yet, because the moment I move it to the other pose, she just moves into the other position. So that's not good. So let's go and switch that into position. Whoops. Yeah, I've had the right shoulder bend selected and not the whole figure, so that's not going to work. There we go. Yeah, oh my god, Control Z. Can you believe that Blender at one point didn't have an undo function? That's funny. When Ton Rosendahl said that in a video, it made me laugh. People said, no, we don't need an undo, and the community was saying, every app we've ever used has an undo function, and how can Blender not have one? And no, the hardcore Blender guys, they never need to undo anything. You always know what tools are at your disposal, and of course they put an undo in, and that's really, I mean, you know, that's that really. How can you not have undo? That's terrible. And The other thing that made me laugh was that Photoshop have recently implemented the regular undo function like other apps have as well. It really made me smile that before that, Control Z in Photoshop was the last function that you undid, but then to undo more than one, you had to press something else like a special kind of shortcut, or you had to use the history panel. And I've gotten so used to it. It's kind of weird to think that Photoshop can now finally do this just like every other program on the planet. Oh, by the way, speaking of Photoshop, actually, I recently bought an external hard drive a few months ago, a Seagate hard drive, and I've completely forgotten about this, but it said somewhere in the small print, oh yeah, by the way, if you buy this, you get a year free of the Adobe photography plan. And that was kind of an interesting one. And I thought, wow, that's exciting, because that's the plan that I have. And perhaps I can just go and get this added to my plan and just get Photoshop for a year for free. That'd be quite nice. And then I thought, well, what's the code? Where do I need to go? So they neglected to give me that code, which is bizarre. So finally I got in touch with them, and they gave me some kind of link to go to. So I must really go ahead and do that, because that would make my life a lot easier. Free Photoshop subscription. It was a Seagate, some kind of a metal ultra thing. If I get it working, I'll make an article about it or post. So there we go. So this is how I envision it. So this is now the close-up for Tamara maybe, and now I can go and move poses here on this layer, on the pose layer, and see what works. It's very cool. Some don't seem to work that well, but as a demo, you get the gist of it. Let's go for some expressions as well under the little menu here. Add a layer, and that'll be the Tamara expressions. And with that, we do exactly the same. We're just going to go and select her head, go into the parameters tab, and see if we can find under pose controls, we can find the head, and under here we find the expressions, and there's literally any expressions will do. I'm going to go for, oh, look at that, Ironman 13. There's some stylish expressions we can use. They may not work that well. Oh yeah, I'm gonna just save this as a camera. So create new camera while I'm here. I'm just gonna go and say Tamara, close camera, so I can then go and fiddle around with the perspective view ongoingly. And then once again, with her head selected, I'm gonna go and use the same pose collection there from Capsces Girl 7 Tuned. I'm going to put a link to all those in the description once I had a chance to make a decent thumbnail about that. So maybe like Goofy is a good one. Goofy is cool. We're going to put that up here. And when I dial that down to 0, what I've forgotten is to put a kind of a 0 expression in the middle. So I'm going to do that now, and then go gloomy cry, maybe. No, that's terrible. Disdain. Fright scream, that sounds good. Yeah, let's do that. Fright scream is cool. We're going to put that here. And then joy is always good. Put joy down here. And then something like a surprise, like an ooh, really? How exciting. Let's do that. Great, so now on the expressions panel we have this. Let me zoom in there a little bit so you can see it a bit better. Maybe even get rid of my aspect frame. And then, of course, while you're moving it, as soon as you let go of the mouse, the subdivision surface modifier will kick in. So it'll look a little bit like in every pose movement or animation movement. It'll look a little bit bizarre when you go just a little bit more, just rougher while you're moving it. And then the moment you let go of the mouse, that subdivision modifier is going to kick in. We can even try, while we're here, while we've got her zoomed in and zoomed up, let's go and create another layer here. Add a layer and call it Tamara Eyes. And with the eyes, they're currently kind of in the looking straight ahead. That's cool. Let's put that in the middle. And now, whoops, under edit, of course. So you've got to go to edit and then put that dot in the middle. While we're here, let's go and see if we can find the eyes. We can just look for that, search for that with the head selected. Let's go for eyes. They usually have, look, eyes closed, crossed side by side, up and down. So that's kind of cool. So while we're here, this is the middle point. Let's go side by side. Let's go and turn them to the left. And then put that under edit mode, put that here. And then with the eyes to the other side, put that point here. Ish. It doesn't have to be absolutely accurate. It's just one of those things. Now we're going to turn that back to 0. Just go reset that out and do the same with up down. So let's go and turn the eyes up. Put another point over here. And then turn the eyes all the way down and put another point over here. And then when you go to preview, it's very cool because now you can go and literally move the eyes with the Puppeteer, and it's just so super intuitive to do that. So when you do that, the eyes just follow around. It's very cool. I love it. This is great with Puppeteer. So I hope that's going to open a lot of possibilities for your work going forward. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Oh, Eric, yeah, hey, thanks for dropping by, of course. Drop me an email if you have any further questions. I hope this helped. Yeah. Do you know, there's one thing I wanted to ask all of you, by the way. I've made a little scene earlier, and I'll see if I can find it while I'm telling you what this is. I'm always fascinated about the performance of graphics cards, and I've just written an article about it. Let me just post that in the chat while I remember it. This is the article I'm talking about, and that is a scene I've built earlier that generates a little, if I can just, where was it? A thing with larger hard drives come, you know, larger responsibilities. There we go. This is the scene. There, that's the scene, and it's not doing a lot. This is just a kind of a 3D, what's it called? Just a scene created from primitives and default shaders. And the idea about it is that we have a cube, kind of a cone, and a sphere. And this is kind of an homage to the early days of 3D computing, like the Amiga had an image very similar to that. And it was supposed to showcase, hey, look, we can do 3D now, and it's totally cool. So I've created this, and you can download this scene from my website, and I'm asking you to do this and then render it on your system and let me know how fast that render was. I think I'm going to make a separate video about explaining how you can do that and where you can go in order to extract your time. The article explains a little bit about that. It's not quite finished yet, so it's still work in progress. So that is a test scene with which we can test how fast these NVIDIA graphic cards render, because I've heard that it's all about the CUDA cores, and some cards that are even newer and more expensive have less CUDA cores than older cards that were cheaper. So my GTX 970, for example, has, I don't know, 1600 something CUDA cores, and I believe the more CUDA cores you have, the faster an iRay scene will render. But I'm confused as to how this actually impacts on iRay rendering performance. So download that scene, render it, and post a comment below that article how long it took your computer to do it and what graphics card you have. And I'm going to collect all that data, and then we can have a look what graphics card renders how fast this particular scene. So the idea is we have one scene that that's kind of consistent, that's reproducible on every computer, and on my computer it took about 17 minutes to render. So there we go. That's my request. If you have a bit of time, please do that and let me know how long it took, and then we can collect some data, and especially on newer graphics cards, we can get a better idea of how well newer cards perform and if it's actually worth upgrading. There we go. I guess that was it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Dreamlab. Thanks, Biscuits. And thank you so much, everyone else out there who was joining us today and not participating in the chat, which is also totally fine. And of course, everyone who's watching this on the pre-record. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm planning to play some more Subnautica tomorrow and hang out in the beautiful underwater world of the Unknown Worlds production of Subnautica. So join me for that if you're free at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Other than that, have a wonderful weekend, have a great week, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm one of the supremely comfortable things in the world. It's one of the supremely. It's one of the supremely. I'm one of the supremely comfortable. Oh yeah. I'm one of the supremely comfortable things in the world. It's one of the supremely. I woke up late last night, not a drop of sweat was on my body. I recognize the light, the music that was flowing all around me. This hyperbole really isn't just exaggeration. Find myself immersed in ultraviolet illumination. Oh, I'm one of the supremely comfortable things in the world. I'm one of the supremely comfortable beings in the world. I'm one of the supremely comfortable beings in the world. One of the supremely. It's one of the supremely. I'm one of the supremely comfortable beings in the world. She's a powder puff, looking out for dope and for her baby. She's not learning much except for how to draw a poison daisy. I'm one of the supreme. She can't get enough, giving blood and milk and all her money. Now the child is sick, will it be medicine or comfort lady? Yeah, I'm one of the supreme. She's one of the supremely comfortable beings in the world. She's one of the supremely comfortable beings in the world. She's one of the supremely comfortable beings in the world. One of the supremely. It's one of the supremely. She's one of the supremely comfortable beings in the world. I'm one of the supreme. I'm one of the supreme. Body up, the body up. Autopita potato. us so brave.